So we've been talking about a lot of stuff. Yesterday we've completed a little bit of a talk about human beings, study of human beings. Then we started the study of order in nature, in which we were studying existence as a system in, by, and for coexistence. And we went into certain details. Once this is over, we'll be talking about humane conduct. And after that, we'll talk about the order in human beings, in which we'll be talking about how the social structure, how the organization of the human society happens on basis of this thought. So that these are the things we'll be talking about. So while others are coming, why not take up some questions from you on, or clarifications or sharings if you have, or any comments you have about what you have been listening to till now.
So मैं तो कल से शाम से I'm like lost when we started learning about space and matter, and I still can't link it up with what we have what we have learned earlier.
Right.
And I still don't understand why we are going so much in detail about space and matter.
Right. Yeah, that is an important question. Why we are going into it to that level, and why is it? What is its significance? So, you see, like yesterday we were talking about this, that humans want to know everything. As a human being, you want to know everything. And in humankind, there has been search for understanding the causality. What is causing everything, right? Why is everything happening? And why is happening in this manner, right? So first of all, we talked about was that everything is happening in manner of coexistence. Earlier, we have also viewed this whole thing, what is happening, as this is struggle, this is conflict with each other, right? Now we're saying, no, it is happening in form of coexistence. This is the new proposal for you. And if you accept the proposal and you practice it, it can become your worldview, right? So everything is happening in coexistence. Like, suppose you agree to it for the time being. Then why is it happening like this? That question comes. To understand that, we have to go there, right? For some of us, it is good enough to know that things are coexisting. So that satisfies us. At the time, we don't have the need to go for the why. That's okay. But sometime later you will get it, because you also are a human being. Once you have imbibed this, it's settled within you, then the question will crop up. One. Second, when you're trying to explain it to somebody else, then also you'll need to know. Right? So unless until you get the complete picture, you will not be able to live it or explain it. But how you start engaging with it right now will depend on your area of interest. Like for you, maybe it is the relationships, parenting, that part might be more important. So you'll focus a lot there. We can only focus in certain areas for the time being. But for understanding in the background, the information will be there. You will have the presentation also, you heard it also. So you now know there is something to address this. You don't really know what exactly it is, but you know there is something which addresses some fundamental question. So when the need arises, you can go to it. Yes. So we're just doing the initial sharings or questions or clarification before I continue with the content. Yes, take the mic. Siddharth को दे दीजिए mic.
Uncle, if half of what makes us human is spiritual, doesn't that entail at least some amount of faith and lack of proof?
it does entail some amount of faith, but not lack of proof. How? Whenever you go to learn anything, whenever you want to learn anything, learning is a process which is when, if you want to learn something in detail, you need help from other human beings who have learned it, right? Suppose as a child, like I keep joking with Ishan that he needs to learn cooking because he likes to eat, so I keep suggesting for last 2 days. But suppose he decides to learn cooking. Like, somebody who knows cooking can teach him, show him. Teaching means can help him what he wants to do, right? But when you start learning, you need to have faith and confidence that this person who's going to teach me is going to teach me correctly first. And what he's teaching me, these points, you examine and accept. But initially, it's on faith. And then as you start dealing with those things, you start realizing, okay, this part is okay, but this part needs some correction. Right? That is realization. Right? So the journey of education, journey of learning, how does it start? It starts from faith, goes on to understanding. Or what we call confidence. Faith and confidence are defined here as believing without knowing is faith. And confidence is knowing and believing. Okay? Yes. So whenever you start, like whatever you study, you first believe that it is right. You go to, say, a science class, you believe what is being taught is right, and you start with like that. Then you have to examine what is happening in the problem in modern education in as practiced in India is, I don't know about other places, that we are not going beyond that. You're believing and carrying on. You're not examining it on you're not making it your own. Right? Yes. Take the mic.
In fact, in our education today, it seems like we're told that that believing itself is knowing.
Yeah. Yeah. That illusion is also there.
I feel like yesterday's the talk, it is it working? It sort of I think in our day-to-day life we also see an order even in our behavior and stuff. Like when we do something bad or we shout at someone, for example, even if we are made to believe that it's justified, it still doesn't feel good. So there's an automatic kind of self-regulating system in us also,
Yes.
in terms of our conduct, which reflects whether it makes sense or not.
Yes.
And I think so seeing that order in your own life also helps. It kind of makes it obvious that the universal order, and when you see the plant order, it would be obvious that it would be orderly.
Yeah.
But then also when you see the vast level of where the order is and the strive for perfection is, you can see that in your own life, that is where that urge comes from.
Yes.
And then it seems much more obvious that, no matter what, distractions on the way, but unless you actually follow that route, which keeps you in alignment,
Yeah.
you can't be coherent, or you can't be happy or fulfilled. So I think that kind of, wraps up that whole thing in a very kind of
Yeah.
beautiful way, I think.
Yeah. It does give, if you accept this, then there is meaning to life. Right? The meaning is searching, first is searching your purpose, then finding your role in nature, finding your role in society. All this gives meaning to life. And this can only happen if everything is orderly, and within that the human domain, which is so small, will obviously be orderly, but we've yet not been able to discover it. So we need to discover that part. But there is an inbuilt mechanism in all of us that we keep searching for orderliness. Whatever your belief system, according to that, whatever is orderly, you want it like that. Right? So somebody might be religious by their belief systems. They will look at things should happen like this because this is how they are supposed to be. Somebody is a scientist, will look at it from this is how it should happen because this is how orderliness is. Somebody is a social worker, talks about social rights, equal rights for people, social justice. They will say, no, this is how things should happen because this is what is orderly. So whatever our different approaches might be, we are seeking order.
I was just thinking that actually, because you said religious, I was thinking about how often people really struggle when something really bad happens, because they have this belief in God, who is good, but then they say, how can terrible things happen? Because there's an all-powerful, good God, right? And so that often is a dissonance for people, which they then try and solve some way, and sometimes their answers are very, very strange because they have to contort themselves to come to some kind of equilibrium, basically.
Right. Yeah. So if you have a external manager of everything for this order, then you will wonder, why is he allowing, or he or she allowing it to happen like this? Right? But the only doer in existence is humankind, because we have the power of willful action. There is no other doer as such. Doer is first knowing what you want to do, then choosing what you want to do. This is doing. In rest of the nature, there is activity. Activity is regulated by the environment. Humans have the ability to change the environment, their own environment. We'll be talking about that later. So the only doer in existence is humans. Here we are not talking about any superpower which does something to control things or manage things, nothing like that.
Is there a conflict between order and creativity?
Not at all. Order is like the principle, and that principle gets evidenced in many forms, and all the forms are new creations, new creativity. Right? For example, there are so many forms of butterflies, there are so many forms of grains, there are so many forms of fruits, so many forms. This is all natural creativity, right? And then the creativity in humans, we can be so creative. The only principle which we have to check in ourselves is not violating the basic principles of existence, not violating the continuity principle. And then that is the only constraint for our own good, because we have the choice to violate that. That only damages us. So if you want to choose to be creative in alignment with nature, there are many more options, in fact, because the whole nature supports you in that. To go against nature, you need to be, all the forces of nature are trying to restrict you. So there are a lot more constraints in that. So there's huge amount of creativity in alignment with order. Lot more than when you don't understand order. Yes.
I just wanted to add on to actually the answer, because of some time back I realized that you can't actually have creativity without order. That if there are no rules, then there is no framework to be creative in.
Yeah.
So if take something like a sonnet, which is very rigidly defined, it's only within those rules that you have the possibility of writing a sonnet.
Yeah.
It's the same for sports actually. It's only a set of rules, and yet no two no two products are ever the same.
Right.
Because these rules exist. So actually, in order to have creativity, you'll have to have order. Otherwise, it will just be sort of formless. It won't be able to take shape.
Another example is if you want to paint, then you have to understand the order of how paints work. What color is mixed with what to get what color. This is order.
In fact, even the frame is a restraint in itself.
Yes.
The canvas itself imposes some sort of structure.
Constraint, yeah, structure. Yeah. Yes. Let's complete this.
I got my answer.
Yeah.
That's all right. But what Siddharth say, I think there's a bit of problem.
Okay.
We are talking.
Is the mic on?
We are talking of technicality. When we say if a form of poetry, or a combination of color,
Yes.
that is technical part of it. It's not creativity. Somebody had created sonnet where sonnet was not there. Like many forms, these technical forms have been created by people. These forms did not exist earlier. So we have to differentiate between technicality and creativity.
See, my submission here is very simple. Like for example of mixing of colors and things like that, that is one order. That was said to address the query, is there any conflict between order and creativity? So, very rudimentary example, like you will always need some order for some creativity. Now coming to your part, that's a technicality. See, we all know, we've all studied this, that Newton discovered gravity, right? Now, that was a very creative thinking, right? He was able to discover it. It was not done for thousands and thousands of years. We were baffling with how things are happening, right? But before he discovered it, was there gravity or not? Right? So creativity is a process of discovering new patterns which already exist. These are harmonious patterns. There is nothing we create. You can't create something out of nothing. Right? And whatever we are doing is we are identifying it. That's what we are calling identifying or recognizing and responding. So when our awareness levels go in certain direction, we might find things which are not yet prevalent. Like for example, this whole Jivan Vidya could be a form of going in a direction, finding some patterns which have not yet been discovered in humankind, patterns of knowledge. Right? Like that. Yes.
So you were talking about people having different orders and how they believe like social workers would have a different order. I just want a little more elaboration on that, because what I am presuming right now is if there are people having different orders, then there would be conflict between these orders.
Yes. Yes. So then the conflict also arises because I want to do it this way and you want to do it the different way, right? So therefore, like yesterday also we were talking about this commonality, that generically we are human beings, we are part of the nature. There is a universal goal that we have that we need to identify. If we keep that as a focus point and never violate that, then we can all these differences can be resolved. But if we don't have that universal goal, then you can't do it. But universal goal can't just be a belief or faith, as we were talking. No, it needs to be knowledge. It needs to be understood. Because beliefs, when you have a belief and how you live that belief, and even if though I have the same belief, the way I live that belief will be different. Because there is no uniformity in beliefs. The only place where we can have uniformity is actually fundamental knowledge, nowhere else. And that is also another part which addresses your initial question, why do we have to go into this space and matter? So that is the fundamental knowledge. That is non-changing. That is perfect. That's permanent. That's continuous. So when we start deriving our logics, our reasoning, our processes rooted in that, because this is common for us, there will be alignments. Anything else? Yeah.
So I'm not sure whether this question fits in the discussion, But like, if, for example, if I don't believe in God, so I always think that whether it's a good idea to like convey that to my daughter. Anyway, she's watching me, so she has a instinct about it, how much I like believe in God. So, but if children ask this question, so I'm not sure it's a good idea to say that like there is no God,
or there is God.
because I think if I remember my childhood, it was an anchor. Like you don't feel the entire burden of the entire universe on my mother is a deeply religious woman, and she has been through lots of ups and downs in life. But uh, God has always been an anchor for her, and that's where she finds solace in her the part she does. So it's like kind of meditation for them. So, but I'm not sure. I mean, of course, they won't believe me if I tell them because they have their own set of beliefs. But the children are looking onto us, so I'm not sure like what to say to them.
See, still do the same thing what you're doing. I won't recommend what you need to say to your children. But a good way of dealing with such issues is, like yesterday, were you there when we were say playing that movie Kumare, right? So the director's grandmother is also doing some religious. He responds to it in a different way. He wants to explore what is this, right? So you responded to it in a different way, right? People respond to this question in a different way, and there is no one single answer that we have come to yet on the in the humankind. This is the fact right now. Share the fact. You share your stand, share a grandmother's stand, share father's stand, uncle's stand, friend's stand, some public figure stand. These are the different stands people have taken on this. This is the fact right now. So being honest about facts, that's all. Then she can make her own choice. Why should pretending is covering up facts? That will trouble you, and when she discovers you were pretending, that will trouble her. That's why people have said, speak the truth, stay happy. Okay? Yeah. So yesterday we started with this main thing. The point to understand is this line. Existence is a system in, by, and for coexistence. Right? Then we talked about that there are two things which exist, which is space and matter. Right? And space is boundless, all-pervasive power. Matter is infinite, indestructible units. Then existence is free from beginning or end, because both of these are neither created nor destroyed. Right? So there is no beginning or end. Space is constant, continuous, unfragmented, omnipresent, transparent, all-pervasive, eternal entity, and we can also add fundamental energy now that we've talked about it. And matter is eternal, indestructible, innumerable, units, active, changing. This is what the two things are. These are the two things, and these are the qualities these two things have. Then we talked about what is coexistence. So we started from the very practical level or from the day-to-day life level, that it is togetherness in being and functioning. Another way of saying that is being useful and complementary to each other. More refined way of saying the same thing. Then a more logical definition is each unit is a system in itself with its own uniqueness while being a part of larger system. This we understood by taking the example of the leaf and the tree. Right? And then we came to this, that actually fundamentally all matter, whether insentient or sentient, all this matter is permeated in space, and this is the complete picture. So everything is permeated in space. And here this information is also being given, that there are matter is of two kinds, sentient and insentient. Okay? And later on we'll also be talking about the fact that sentient matter basically comes through it develops from the insentient matter itself. There is a process for it. It happens when it is needed, where it is needed naturally. Okay. So then we started talking about the fact that these two being so intermingled with each other, right? The space, matter is permeated in space. This state we described, now go to the other one. This state we said this is soaked, immersed and encompassed. We can use many other words, right? So we can call this encompassed as surrounded also, right? So by the virtue of it being soaked, what does soak signify? That the space is through and through matter. There is no part of matter where the space has not gone through it. It's like if you put a cloth in water, the water becomes wet through and through. No part is dry. So every part is affected in water. Similarly, when matter is permeated in space, by virtue of it being soaked, that's why the word soaked has been used, then each and every part of matter is affected by space. And what is the part? What quality? That is space being fundamental energy, and therefore matter being soaked in energy is energized. Here, one important difference one needs to understand: this fundamental energy is everywhere, because space is the fundamental energy and space is everywhere. That's what we are saying. So there is no flow of energy in this. Fundamental energy doesn't flow. Why doesn't it flow? Because flow takes place from where there is something and where there is not something. Water flows from higher to lower level. If there is water here, it will flow to a lower level where there is no water, right? But if something is everywhere, how will it flow? How will it move? So there is no movement, no flow. So using the language of source of energy, space is the source of energy of matter, that is wrong language. Because source is also meaning that it is coming from there. There is no coming. It is there. So matter is in energy and therefore energized. What energy we talk about in daily life, that we are calling relative energy or the work energy. So when this fundamental energy in which matter is soaked, this matter which becomes energized shows activity, is active. And this activity results in, when two particles interact or two entities interact or more than two interact, then their relative motions generate some energy, like sound energy, electric energy, heat energy. These are all forms of relative energy. These flow from one system to the other system, from one atom to the other atom, from one planet to the other planet, depending on their organization, if it is needed or not, from one biological cell to the other biological cell, right? From one compound to the other compound. That's what affects the bonding, unbonding of compounds and things like that. So the work energy flows. Work energy is a different thing. So the concept of absolute energy or fundamental energy and relative energy is here, which if any of you wants to understand, the details are available, for which you will have to do advanced study of this. Right? Then we were talking about it being immersed, right? And in there we brought about the concept of space being perfect, right? The matter is immersed in perfect, and therefore it is active to exhibit perfection. Okay. So something which is perfect is completely stable, therefore it is unchanging. That is only space. Whereas perfection is basically showing the influence in perfect, the matter being imperfect, and therefore it is showing some perfection in some aspect. It can't be completely perfect. So this difference between perfect and perfection, right? So for example, many particles come together and become a stable system, say like an atom. They are moving in coordinated motion. So, like for example, all of you must have studied in schools or read in books that there are atoms and they have some particles which go around in orbits, right? And does anybody know what is the speed of these electrons which are going around in orbits? Yeah, that's a good one. Scientists have given it a name. This exactly the exact phenomena. They call it speed of light. So they are going around zero point 0.2 to 0.5 c. C is supposed to signify the speed of light, right? That fast. And how big is an atom? So small that we can't even see it with an instrument as of yet, right? Within that small space, it's going on so fast. And still those particles are together. I mean, if you try to move anything very fast in a closed space, it breaks apart. Whereas here it is stable. And therefore it becomes, all atoms become the building blocks for the further structures in nature. Right? So this lot of, so they're exhibiting huge amount of energy, and this energy is there, and there lot of motion is taking place, but still they are participating to, and they're together to exhibit stability. Right? Their coordination results in stability. It's very difficult to break an atom. Like we have to use a lot of forces. Like for example, when we break the atom, it's called fission. A lot of energy is needed for doing that. So it's not natural to break. The fission doesn't take place under normal circumstances. It might be taking place in sun or something, but not under normal circumstances. Normally, all these atoms are very stable. So this stability indicates towards tendency of being stable. And with stability, we are relating to perfection. And yesterday also I mentioned this fact that there is one configuration of an atom which becomes fully stable, completely stable. So structurally stable atom is being called, it is being called structural perfection. So in the aspect of structure in which there is movement, lot of motion and things like that, it has come to a state of harmony where nothing is going to go out or nothing is going to come in. Like in an atom, normal atom, when its duration is over, the lighter atoms join together to form bigger atom. Or if it is a heavier atom, it will break apart after its life. Right? But in this case, this atom, which we are calling structurally perfect atom, yeah. So this is one table I made. So these atoms signify, this is not showing the sizes of the atoms, first of all. This is showing the tendency to change, bigger tendency to change. So this will become, this is more unstable, this is less unstable, less. Okay, this is perfect. And this is the other side. What are these two sides? Some atoms break apart by emitting particles. Their configuration changes by breaking apart. Something goes out of them, right? And some atoms change their configuration by taking in some particles. Right? So in both ways, if you look at them and you put them in a linear pattern, you will find some are maximum undersaturated and some are maximum oversaturated. Oversaturated will emit particles, undersaturated will attract particles. And because they are maximum, therefore their state will change much quicker because they are more unstable. Or the factor of stability is less in this. In this slightly more, in this slightly more, and like this from that end. So here you can imagine configurationally complete saturated atom. Okay. So just for showing how things are happening, how we are, and this is also the conscious atom then. Yeah. Like, for example, undersaturated means they have less. So all your lighter atoms, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, these all belong here somewhere. Okay, the heavier atoms, uranium, plutonium, and all those things there. So if you've studied science, the atoms which have more than 4 orbits, right? They have large number of particles. The nucleus impact on the outer shells is not that much. So therefore they have tendency of changing configuration by emitting. And the undersaturated ones like hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, all these have much smaller. They have 1 orbit or 2 orbit structures. Right? So here the nucleus impact is much stronger. So the particles don't go away when they join like that. So their configuration changes in that manner. Yeah. Yeah.
So, understanding this structure where there are undersaturated to oversaturated or atomic configurations, how does it help us in our understanding of jivan?
Right. Right. So first of all, one question: where does consciousness come from? So we are saying consciousness is a property of a certain type of atom. Okay. So next question comes: where does this atom come from? Right. So we're saying in nature there are atoms which exhibit different properties. If you look at the properties of hydrogen, and you look at the properties of oxygen, look at the properties of carbon, they, all of them are made of electron, proton, neutrons, right? Same particles, but the properties are so different, right? So all properties which are there at the fundamental level are coming from atoms. So the proposal here is consciousness is also from one atom, one type of atom.
So then consciousness, where does it lie, with under the undersaturated or the oversaturated, or
Neither.
neither?
Neither. It lies only in this one type, which is configurationally complete saturated atom. It is configurationally saturated, which basically means it doesn't need to give anything or take anything anymore. It's complete. This we are calling structural perfection.
Okay. So can we say that human mind or humans uh, are at various levels of saturation, and they strive to be the complete saturated atom, so that there's complete consciousness? Because I know I'm not complete.
No,
I
I
don't
understood
have
what you're
complete
saying, and this is a
consciousness.
very relevant question, and there's nothing wrong with that. So there is not only one perfection. There are 3 perfections. So this is the first one we are talking about here. Okay, which is the how does the consciousness come about? So it comes about when the certain number of atoms become configurationally complete. That becomes the conscious entities. Then they start functioning along with the body. Bodies are evolving through the physical chemical process in nature. right? So there is complementary. This consciousness needs to express itself. It needs a tool, which is the body. So they both coexist in forms of animals as well as humans, right? Now, the in the initial stages, like in animals, the full abilities of conscious are not exhibited. Okay? In the human form, there is potential for it to exhibit full all of its abilities. So that's what we are calling spiritual awareness, spiritual awakening. When you through a proper study, you come to your full potential. That is the second perfection. Okay, when the conscious unit jivan comes to its full potential, it starts functioning according to that, right? But the story doesn't stop here. Now a human being who's realized human being, has all the potential realized of its conscious, now needs to exhibit this in its conduct. So there are many aspects of our conduct, like we talked about work, behavior, intellect, spiritual. So all these four levels, it has to live in harmony. When it does that, then its conduct perfection is also there. That is the final thing. When this happens, for this to happen, it leads to an impact on society. The society starts getting orderly. So harmonious families, harmonious communities, harmonious society, and harmonious humankind. Slowly, slowly over generations, this will develop. When individuals strive for conduct perfection, right? Like this. And all this motivation is coming from here. Yes.
Why did it have to be three ways of soaking or like a coexistence? Why couldn't just immersion, given it energized and magnetized and regulation and balance? That's first question. Second is, why did unstable atoms exist in the first place? And then, if all insentient matter or atoms are trying to become sentient, as in gain perfection in configurational, then if that means that after say a million or billion years, everyone as in every atom will become sentient.
Yeah.
So what will happen to the body, because that
Yeah.
will have to be
Okay.
that should contain sentient matter.
Okay. Right. So first of all, when we are using these three things, this is just an analysis to understand certain properties, right? So first, what we said was sentient and insentient matter is permeated in space. So we used only one word. Okay. I could have gone ahead and said because of permeation, it is energized, it's active, it's regulated. Then I said it will become a lot easier if I use three words. If it is not, then go back to the first one. If there is a need, we can make it into 10 things. Right? So we use analysis as a tool to understand things. The purpose is to understand. Understanding is being able to see the reality as it is. Okay? Then the second question, that why are there unstable atoms? Right? So in nature, everything has a role. Right? So each unit of matter has a role. So when we look, and everything exists together. So you'll find subatomic particles are existing, atoms are existing, molecules are existing, molecular chains are existing, biological cells are existing, and all the superstructures, they all are existing at the same time. Right? Now when we look at some space and time, in the constraint of space and time, say look at our planet, then we find that certain particles, it's a full planet with innumerable particles, huge mass, right? Out of this huge mass, some matter or maximum amount of matter is is being useful by ensuring the structure is stable. The planet's shape, the planet's motion, and everything. A lot of that participation or contribution goes into ensuring that this planet in itself is stable in structure and motion. Okay? Some particles or some atoms participate in the on the surface, forming the different uh, uh, creations or the structures, like from atom to molecule change to cells to plants to animals. All these structures, they are participating in this part, right? There's a huge amount of matter which is at Earth's core, which is needed for maintaining the structure of Earth, magnetism and everything. So some part is playing that role, then some part is playing part in the evolutionary process on the surface. And out of that some part, and I'll show you a diagram how that is starts exhibiting the respiration process, which becomes the biological world. And after that respiration, then comes the animal world, in which the ability to move as a unit comes about. Right? We'll be talking about that. And then the ability to see everything, understand everything, which is in the human order. So, for the humans to be able to see, each and every atom and particle is playing their role to perfection. Perfection in what sense? In togetherness. Without the structure, this evolutionary process can't take place. Without the evolutionary process, the conscious unit will not have the human body through which it can learn and express. Right? So everybody is contributing. It's not that the conscious unit will contribute. It cannot contribute without the roles of others. It's like saying we are doing this workshop here, we are the most important. But people who are working in the kitchen, who are maintaining this campus, people who are supplying services to this, the whole community, and everybody is playing a role now. So everything contributes for this perfection. The perfection is not individual. Perfection is in coexistence.
So in that case, what you're saying is, and relating to the previous answer that you told Shamila ji, is that if the atom is not working towards configurational perfection, it's trying to achieve perfection through the other, like either the functional or some other type of perfection, and that's how it is
So,
maintained.
so every particle is participating in perfection through its role. So that is a much better way of understanding it. You see, both in materialism and in idealism, the journey has always been of the individual. Materialism, I have to consume. For this, I have to exploit everyone. So it's my single journey. Idealism also, the moksha is for the individual. Single entity. Rest is all illusion. Here we are talking about each and everything is contributing in my journey. And similarly for you, and similarly for all of us. We are all of us in it together. We coexist. That's the main theme of this whole thing. Right? And what was your third question?
It kind of is getting answered now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, please pass the mic.
So what I understand now is that the human body is matter, which is
Insentient matter.
insentient matter. So there are two parts to the human body. One is the so it's the atma, buddhi, chitta, vritta, and
That's the sentient matter.
that's the sentient matter, and
Yeah.
there's the body, which is the insentient matter.
Right.
Now this body is made up of different kinds of atoms
Yeah.
that are coming together to form it. So over the course of one's journey as a human, so from baby, say, to old age, and then you pass away. So when you pass away, the body again becomes matter, a different form of matter.
Yeah. The form keeps changing.
Yeah, because the form keeps changing. What happens to the sentient matter?
It associates with another body. in the womb and starts another energy and
Okay.
another journey.
Because when we say, yeah, that's, but how do we know whether that is?
Yeah. So how do we know? Right now, only logically what is happening. I'm just giving you some reasoning, right? To know is not just accepting the logic. That will only be agreement, right? So we have a faculty in ourselves which we are calling Atma, where realization takes place, where you get to know. So you have to awaken that through study. Then you'll know that this is so. Right now, you're taking it as, okay, this makes sense, this makes sense. So you are making some perception based on some logic right now, right? Along with that, some belief is combined with it. Some part you believe, some part you have doubts about. Slowly, slowly, as you engage with this content, you start getting to a place where you see, okay, if this is so true, then this is livable. So let me say first practice it a bit. So when you start practicing it in your living, then you start getting evidence of whether it is true or not. If you get the evidence that it is true, that is the time when you have the anubhav realization take place. Without living it, you can't have anubhav of this.
But then my next question is that if I do join another body and but the perfection that I have achieved in the previous birth, that again goes to square one.
No, it doesn't. See, what goes is the circumstantial things. The body is gone, anything associated with the body is gone. But your learnings are with you. Learnings not in form of where you are from. Like if I were to ask you on the second day, what breakfast did you have here? Right? It's not relevant, so you won't remember it. Right? But it was very important that day what you had. Right? Today's breakfast you'll remember. So we only remember things which are relevant, and relevancy is circumstantial. Okay? Learnings, when are in terms of the universal truths, right? They stay with you.
So, can we say that when a child is born, they are born with harmony in them?
Yeah. So when a child is born, it is got full potential of living in harmony. Now it will depend on what kind of environment, education, and its own tendencies. In combination of all these three, its journey will be determined. Like we all have the power of imagination and power of willful action. Like in the same place, there's some people who are listening, some people are not listening. This is our own right. Right? So the same right is with the child. So his own drive, the circumstances, like if somebody is born in Syria right now, he'll probably be focused on surviving, not on anything else, right? And the education being provided to him. All these three combine to determine the journey. We as parents can become contributors in its environment as well as education. Right? If we wish to. Okay. Yes. हाँ जी बताइए.
That means my my grandmother died.
Yeah.
So her sentient atma now in another body. So
Most likely.
if a baby born, my means if I
Could be your ancestor who passed away.
uh, he or she brings all the learning from their previous birth.
Only those learnings which are universal.
Yeah.
If they, if their journey did generate such learnings, which are free of, independent of time and space, right? They will, they'll be with them. Not in form of memory, in form of tendency. Uh, what they will be attracted to, what they'll respond to, in what manner they'll respond. So even if you see two twins born in the same household, they have different tendencies, right? That is because of
Is it possible that now you're saying that we might take a rebirth, or not rebirth actually, but the conscious goes on in its own way? But in natural circumstances, in today's world, what we live in, there's this funny statements that they give us: "अगर काटेगा तो कुत्ता हो जाएगा." So, is it possible that we can take an animal form or any other living thing kind of form?
that. Yeah, so that's a good question. This coexistential system is for perfection, right? So anything which is for perfection, it promotes progress, not regress. Okay. So, but because humans have the uh, power of willful action, so if you desire strongly at the time of dying that you want to be born as a cow or a buffalo or a dog or a donkey, and that desire is really strong, you're so agitated, then maybe so. But otherwise, under normal circumstances, you will be reborn as a human being. But I will say, see, these are all speculative questions. And this is the most curious part for humankind right now: what happens after death and before birth. And this is beyond living. I would suggest let's stick to the living part first. If we understand the living, then maybe we can understand what happens after living. Right? But these journeys, the information is the conscious unit has several bodily journeys. And all of them are meant for your learning. What is that learning? Coming at the universal knowledge. Okay. Now we have to think how much time we have spent for that. Right? Okay. इसको छोड़ दो यार, इसकी जरूरत नहीं है. हाँ, yeah, please.
One last question.
Yeah.
Like, so, am I to think that I'm having both the undersaturated atoms and the oversaturated atoms
In your body.
in my body?
Yeah.
And once the
And you, as conscious, are the sentient atom.
the undersaturated one is coming to the configurationally saturated.
Those atoms are in their configuration.
Okay.
Those atoms form molecules. Molecules form molecular chains. Molecular chains form biological cells. Biological cells form tissues. Tissues form organs. Organs forms the body. And this is all done on basis of the DNA of the body, the cells. So that mechanism works. So you, when you relate to your body, it first of all you relate to I've got arms, I've got legs, I've got this, and this. What is all this made up of? So various organs. Organs are made up of tissues. Tissues are made up of cells. So to understand, we are analyzing all this, right? The body is made up of. We don't interact at the atomic level with the body, right? You and I, when we interact at the bodily level, a fully functional, complete body, right? When we have some problem with the body, malfunction in the body, health issues, then we go to the organ level. Sometimes we have to go to the tissue level. Sometimes we have to address it at the cellular level. Sometimes now we have started addressing it at the genetic level. So it depends on the kind of issues that we have identified. But normal day-to-day life is at the body level. And body is made up of matter. Matter is formed with all the kinds of atoms which are there in nature.
What are the sentient atoms? Like for the insentient atoms, we have the names like hydrogen, carbon, oxygen.
Yeah.
What are the names for the like sentient atoms?
So it's called jivan. This is Jivan Vidya.
Can I please? Can I go first? So
Yeah.
New sentient. So when and how are new sentient atoms created? It's like, is there? It seems like there's some kind of perfection process going on
Yeah.
until they become perfect.
Yeah.
But where is that occurring?
That occurs in a planet, on the surface of the planet. It's a self-regulated system. See, it's striving for perfection. So everything is orderly in this. So when when the evolution process has reached a place where animals can live and humans can live, just before that it would happen.
So that number is increasing all the time?
No, that happens once, according to the mass of that planet, right? And then, as per situation, those start running some bodies, right? For every one jivan running a body, there might be many which are not yet running the body.
But is that a finite number?
It will be a finite because it's a finite planet.
Right. So
Finite in terms of this planet.
right. So at the moment there's 8 billion.
Yeah.
And there might be a potentiality for 50 billion.
Whatever the potential of the Earth is.
Right.
Some say 10 billion, some say 20 billion. But that's only the human population. There are in the animal population also, which is much larger than this.
Sir, I'm just reiterating because the little I've understood out
Yes,
of this.
yes, please.
So when she said that in body we have undersaturated and oversaturated atoms, and you had mentioned that all of these contribute for that one stable atom.
How do they contribute? When they form structures together, right? For example, if you were to examine your body, you will find carbon in your body for sure, oxygen, nitrogen, all this will be there in your body in various compounds. You will also find some other elements, heavy elements also. Iron is there, then gold is there, some other elements are there in our body, much less quantity, but they are there. So all these are combining together to form the various structures. Okay, the physical structure. But here they are not working to form any conscious atom inside the body. Conscious atom has already there, it's running this body. Right? Now the process on this surface of this planet is there when the bodies are formed biologically and a conscious atom runs that body. It's like a car coming out of factory and a person driving away. The only thing is factory is one centralized thing. Here it is happening distributed model.
So if the body is made out of insentient matter and the mind is the consciousness is made out of sentient matter, does that mean when does the sentient matter start occurring in the consciousness? Like since the day you were born, or in the womb, or how is it made when you are not even alive yet?
So the sentient matter has two parts. Rishta, let's go to the jivan part. So presently, what we call conscious part of us is this one. Okay, this is what we use. Interestingly, this comes into action, this kicks in when we are associated with the body. If we are disassociated, this stops functioning because it has no role. It is needed for running a body. Okay, and it can only function with the inputs given by the body. Without the inputs from the body, this cannot function. That's why you can't feel it. So what happens at that time? The only thing which can happen here is observation. And observation is always a function of awareness. So if you are aware about things beyond body, then while living and when you die, still you'll stay aware of that. But if you're not aware, then it's like a deep sleep. You've gone into a deep sleep. You don't know. So you die, and when you are reborn, it's like opening eyes, and you don't know anything from the past. So you think you started now, like we all feel. But if a person who has gone through this journey of enlightenment and then to Anubhav, then when they wake up, initially they'll also feel like they've just started the journey. But slowly as they progress, they'll start getting inkling of there is something more, and they will again go through this part and arrive here very quickly compared to others. That is the journey.
So, does that mean that the sentient matter that you were in your past life never dies and it just continues on in you, so you don't have to reform the matter? You just, sentient matter is already the same?
Yes.
Okay.
What good is perfection, structural perfection, if it dies? That's why we are, because it doesn't change, therefore we are calling it perfect, structurally perfect. Yes.
So, like you mentioned, the disassociation from the body. When does that happen? If a person is in depression?
Death.
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 So, in all other situations, these 4.5 would be working?
Yeah. Whether we are aware of them or not.
They are working.
They work. See, when I say they're working, that means I'm in control of using them. Like you can use your thinking power, you can use your visualization power, you can use your desires, right? You have control over them. But once you die, this control is gone because there is nothing to provide it the inputs.
I have one more question. You mentioned that the baby is born and he's still carrying the sentient matter with him.
No, let's get there. Baby being born is the sentient matter coming together with a baby body.
So the insentient matter is coming with the baby?
Yeah, the body. So the baby is a combination of jivan as well as the body. This is, I am jivan as well as body. Jivan is the sentient, body is the insentient, right? So when a baby is born, the insentient matter is already there. It now associates with this body, which is forming in the womb, which is a biological unit. Now it starts controlling and running this body within the womb itself. Then it takes birth.
And some sentient matter is there in the baby. That is a jivan.
One jivan atom, not some.
One.
Only one atom.
So is it possible while growing up that he will lose that jivan due to the environment or some other barriers to his jivan?
Yeah, there is possible, and it's called death in accident.
Only death. Otherwise it can't be suppressed, that jivan.
In fact, jivan is the thing which keeps the body alive. If there is no jivan, the definition of death is separation of jivan and body.
But if jivan is equal to consciousness,
yeah,
so means everybody is having that 5.5 at birth?
Potentially we have all 10 at birth. We only are utilizing 4.5 from slowly from birth, so we can't even utilize our analysis and visualization properly. We slowly learn. So say by the age of 5-6 years, those 4.5 are functioning in their potential. But rest of the things, potentially they are there, but we are not able to function on basis of them. That is the difference.
Is there an understood time of connection? Is it right at the moment of like egg fertilization, or when does jivan enter the picture?
I can only give the information. I have not verified this on my own, but the information is on the 52nd and the 55th. No, that is the determination of the gender. This is around the 4th month. 3.5 to 4 months. Yeah, between 3.5. So the indication of that is when the baby starts moving in the womb. Before that, you don't sense the movement.
Yeah, sorry, this raises so many questions.
Yes.
So is there a pool of I mean,
let me just
jivans?
answer the another part,
Okay.
because there's associated. Without that, this is incomplete. Jivan can only operate a body which has a developed brain. Otherwise, its signals are not communicated to the body. So till the time the zygote develops into a certain form and it can accept the signals, or the jivan can operate through giving the signals to the brain, till the time the brain is developed to that level, it doesn't associate with it. That is the reason it happens like that. So, which also indicates there are certain animals whose brains are not fully developed, like say maybe an earthworm or a leech or maybe even a lizard to a certain extent, whose brains are not developed, therefore jivan doesn't operate those types of structures. It operates those kind of structures like say a cow or a buffalo or a monkey or more developed birds, certain reptiles, birds and mammals, things like that, right? Yeah. Now you were asking something.
So is there this kind of pool of jivan that's waiting for the opportunity to incarnate?
So yeah. So when we are first of all, where is this? It is here, this very planet, right? It's not anywhere else. This is not in some other realm or anything. This is just, we can see each other right now because of the body, and because we perceive the jivan, because you express yourself through the body, I express myself through the body, so we perceive each other's consciousness through this. But without the body, it is very difficult to perceive this, right? Because we are used to perceiving things only through body, right? So once the body is gone, they are here itself. If you want to call that pool, and there are many jivans at that time. Each jivan, after leaving its body, at the time of leaving the body, has certain preferences for a certain kind of lifestyle in which it's suppose it will get happiness. Like, so for example, somebody thinks if they have very good food or certain kind of food, this is what gives them happiness. Or somebody thinks they want only travel will give them happiness. So those journeys will start in places where those opportunities are available to them. So if somebody wants to live an eco-friendly life, he will be born, nature will provide, or it will happen such that he will be born in some areas where living like that is possible. Again, it is in this area after death and before birth, which is very mystical, and going too much into it will just, I mean, I don't have any evidence or anything. I don't even have proper logic for most of those things. So I kind of avoid talking about that a lot. Yes, true. Because we might end the topic before it ends. Yes.
So now I'm confused between two things. One, we said earlier that only humans have sentient matter.
No. Animals and humans. Certain animals and humans.
Animals and humans. Okay, that's sorted. Then the other thing, I forgot.
Animals show, like if you play with Ruby, it shows feelings, no?
Yeah.
It shows levels of consciousness, right? Learning.
I'll come back. I've forgotten the other question.
Yeah, okay.
So first of all, I've understood very little of this particular topic. I want to make it very clear. Second is that I have two questions. One is, first one is that um, the formation or the emergence of those 5.5 aspects, is it based on nature and nurture impact? second is, as you said that the work of jivan happens in case of fully formed brain. So what, a lot of time people are born with fully formed brain, and it is in the later aspect of their life because of the trauma or accident or through other reasons that their brain functioning gets impacted. So in that case, what is the impact of or what kind of role does jivan play in that case?
Right, good question. So, in case of this brain development thing, see, like if you want to go from here to some place and you want to go in a car, the car should be functional, right? So, if the car is not properly functional, it's not in its harmonious condition, then it will be difficult. Say, engine has some problem or tires have some problem, so it won't function, or the braking system. So, the body's, if any part is not functioning properly, then the jivan is not able to express itself or learn through it properly, because it's the media. It's like when you're using a mobile phone and the suppose the processor is not working properly, then the phone can't be used, right? And even if the speaker is not working properly, then you can't use the phone. Forget the processor, which is more important. So if there is damage to brain, say sometimes in childbirth or thing like that, that happens, then there is nothing wrong with the jivan as such. So, but it is not able to express itself fully because the media of expression is not working properly. And therefore, it can't learn things because the media for learning is not working properly, the body. But their feelings are at the same level. So, people who work with physically challenged or mentally challenged, as it's called, children or adults, at the level of feeling, they are equals. But at the level of expression and learning, there are differences. Right? So, brain is a kind of a tool for us, which we don't consciously use, but it needs to be in a healthy state, and then jivan automatically uses it. Right? As we grow older, so at the time of birth, brain's development has taken place to a certain extent, and certain extent it will develop over the next 4 or 5 years. Right? That part is dependent on your sensory and motor skills, which develop slowly. Along with that, jivan's full potential is there, but we have not yet used that potential in form of functioning, which hones our abilities. Right? So as we grow up, as we hone our abilities in motor skills and sensory skills, along with that our conscious skills get also honed. So if we are focused, if we are in the learning process, then we slowly grow. We grow consciously also, our level of awareness increases. Also, our ability to do many things through our sensory and motor skills increases. Then comes an age when we learned what we have to learn, and now we live as responsible citizens. So if our learning process has gone smoothly and it's been completed, then we can live properly within the community and the society and nature. If it hasn't gone completely well, then we'll have problems. That is what is happening right now. So our learning journeys are not getting completed. So we are adults with incomplete learnings. So we stumble through life from one crisis to the other.
But sir, sometimes it happens that two people who have gone through a very similar situation, for example, people who have been in some sort of natural disaster. So both of them have gone through a similar trauma, but their response is very different to it.
Right.
So does Jivan has a role to play in that also?
Yeah, sure. Any response is initiated from jivan. Like I was saying when we were answering that question about what impacts the journey, right? So there are three things. One is the quality that jivan is trying for, or what the motivations of the jivan itself, right? That is one part. second is the circumstances, and third is the education. These three combined determine the journey. So jivan is the most powerful thing in this, right? Because you're conscious, how you see things. In the same event, you can interpret it as positive and others can interpret it as negative. Yes.
I was thinking that unless there is some room here for a materialism, doesn't this somehow gratify actually renunciation, which you had claimed was an uh, uh, sort of uh, result of idealism, which is not Jivan Vidya, right? Which is that everything is an illusion, so you have to renounce it. And the reason I'm thinking about that is because if unsaturated atoms and saturated atoms come together to make this um, stable configuration, which is Jivan, which is consciousness, it seems as if it has some agency. And if that is perfect and the body is imperfect, why would it choose to inhabit something which is imperfect? Why would it move from something which is, why would it move from perfection to imperfection? Um, and unless the whole project, as it were, is built so that my particular existence, which is material, the material existence of my body, unless it wants the body, which is material, why would it choose to inhabit something which will someday die? And if that is not the case, then all the idealism um, claims to renunciation make sense. Then you have to renounce the body and some sort of, then everything does become an illusion and you would have to renounce the world, as it were.
Yeah. Okay. So from the first day when we were talking about, uh, when we were talking about jivan and sharir, right? Sorry, jivan and body, and we talked about this, that jivan. Can we go back to that slide, Drishna?
Um, so on the first day, we were shown a slide which made a distinction between these larger philosophies called materialism and idealism. And idealism claimed that everything is an illusion, that there is some perfect state, which means that we are imperfect and we have to renounce everything because it's an illusion and transcend, as it were, to that perfect state.
No, I think the slide before this. No, before this. No. Where we talked about the body is a tool for the Siddha. This. When we were talking about this, we talked about this fact that jivan is conscious, right? Like you are also conscious, right? But jivan is not aware that it's a conscious unit, right? So it is not able to differentiate itself from the body. Even now, suppose you have some idea, right? You have some idea. How good this idea is, you might feel like, oh, it's such a great idea. I work this out, this connect. But till the time you implement this idea, you live it, you cannot be sure whether this is right or this is lacking something. So this is the problem for the perfect unit, perfection wala unit, jivan. It's a conscious unit. It can think of anything, imagine anything. But how do you verify that its imagine is reality? Right? So now it needs to connect with the body and see because with the body, whatever you're thinking or whatever you're imagining, you give evidence of it in a material form, which you can observe, which others can observe, its impact on nature, its impact on humankind. You evaluate it, others evaluate it, then only you can say this is the evidence of my understanding. So the evidence of knowing is in living. Without body you can't live. So this makes the body very important. Right? So, yes, body is less developed than this highly developed jivan, but it uses as a tool for expressing itself. Yes.
So this goes back to actually what Prashant Bhushan sir had said a few days ago, that it's only when you have the opposite that you can realize what the first thing is. So in order to know happiness, you have to know some sort of sadness. In order for Jivan to know that it is perfect, it will have to embody something which is imperfect.
No, no, that's not. See, all we are saying is that jivan, even to know itself, not only to know that it is perfect, just to know itself as a separate entity, it needs to express. See, because this level of awarenesses, no, there are many level of awarenesses. Like for example, I give a very common example. Like if you're walking through the garden, you and I see green grass growing there. But somebody who's got the knowledge of, say, various herbs, right? We will keep spotting, oh, this is this plant, this is that plant, this is that plant. And you and I are just seeing green grass, right? So even though the images of those things are falling on our eyes, but we only recognize what we are aware of. Awareness comes through knowledge. Knowledge comes through learning. Learning is done through body. So it's a coexistence of body and jivan. So knowledge order is not jivan. Knowledge order is not human body. Knowledge order is coexistence of jivan with body. Right? So the nature has produced us as human beings. And we are understanding the components of this human being. Both have their roles, but we live as humans. We learn as humans. We produce evidence as humans. And we enjoy the results or the happiness of it as humans. So it's about being human. So this is called human-centric thought. Right? This is, the full phrase is existence-rooted human-centric thought. Okay. So it is not that to know its perfection, it has to deal with imperfection. No. It's just it is in a state where coexistence with the body helps in its forward journey. So both are helping each other. This jivan and body are complementary to each other.
I might be wrong, but it seems as if it's important to think of Jivan not as some sort of entity that has its, personality or something, but as just matter. It's just material which coincides
with abilities, with conscious abilities.
Okay.
And its personality comes as a human being. Its qualities are exhibited. What you live is your quality, right? That, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say something similar, but I think because generally this idea of the self or consciousness is considered immaterial.
Yeah.
And so then there's this kind of idea, the whole idea of spirit or something that could exist outside of the material. But in this proposal, jivan is material. It's a certain kind of atom, right?
Yeah.
So it's not outside the material processes.
Yes. It has evolved. So it has two properties different from this insentient matter. See, the insentient matter participates in two processes. One is the physical processes. That is, it is affected by physical forces. So if you put heat to some insentient matter, it will get affected. If you put some electricity to it, it will get affected. Right? One. Second, the insentient matter also participates in the chemical reactions. Right? So if you have, say, some metal, you put it in acid, it will react, and whatever the metal is there, iron is there, it rusts because of the thing. So it is chemically reacting also. So it interacts with its environment, physically and chemically. The sentient matter, by the virtue of its configurational perfection, stops interacting physically and chemically. That is one of the distinct properties which it has. So it stops interacting physically and chemically, but it starts interacting consciously now. So to interact consciously, because it cannot impact matter in any way otherwise, it needs a body. So that's why it needs the body to interact. And through the body, it expresses its consciousness. And in this process, its personality develops.
I think this is related to the first question Siddharth asked. Jivan is perfect,
Structurally.
is structurally perfect, and its swabhav or instinct nature is coexistence.
Its
And
swabhav is observation. Coexistence, it needs to learn. If its nature was coexistence, then from birth we would all be coexisting.
okay. What has gone wrong? If the nature is also in harmony, everything is harmony, where from these adverse things come?
What adverse things?
Adverse things, the wrong kind of education.
Right.
Or the something, whatever goes against coexistence. If everything is tuned to that entire universe, then where from these forces come?
So let's go to the 4 orders slide. Next. So material order is all things that are made up of matter, right? Next. Biological orders are all things made up of matter and respiring. So out of this, all the matter, some are respiring, right? Next. Respiration, right? Animal order is all things made up of matter, respiring, and having self-awareness. So all such things out of the whole, these come under the animal order. We have to change the names in English. Okay, next. And out of this, the only humans belong to the knowledge order. So there is a progression. At this level, there is self-awareness. Okay. But this conscious, which has a sense of self, but is governed by the body, and the body is impacted by the external environment. So if there is heat, it will move in certain direction. If it is cold, it will move in certain direction. If there is hunger, there is urge for sex. And these factors determine its functioning. And this functioning being determined externally still is in balance with the rest of the things. Because it has no free will, or what we call power of willful action. It is only here that the power of willful action emerges. And here, despite whatever our environment, we can make our own decisions. So humans are that form of entity in nature which have the freedom to act. Now, along with this, we also have the opportunity to learn and act. Both have been given. Both are not given, both are there for us. So truly, knowledge or gaining knowledge or acquiring knowledge or arriving at knowledge is an act of freedom which we execute in the right direction, in alignment with nature. But we have the choice to ignore that also. If we ignore it, we will suffer. There is a built-in indication. When we ignore this choice, we suffer. And if we take up this choice and learn, then we get joy. So that also is inherently built in us. Choice to learn, to know, Know what? Everything. Existence.
So does it mean that this free will is generally, I mean, likely
Put on the mic, please.
to go in the wrong direction? I mean, as the historical evidence is available to us in all aspects.
So the journey is again not of individuals.
No, I'm talking of humanity. I'm talking
Yeah. I understand. So as we emerged on this planet, initially our first awareness came of about our surroundings and how to live in that surrounding. Right? That initial period, just to have food and shelter was a struggle. Once we were able to get through that phase, we started dealing with each other. Right? And even during earlier phase, there were conflicts with various groups. We were living in small groups, tribes. And then once we came in, we had enough awareness how to deal with the environmental factors and animals and things like that. Then our awareness about each other and what to do with each other. So there, some people, and we keep hearing about this, there have been messengers, not kind of God messengers, but I'm saying messengers of goodwill in humankind. Let's live together in cooperation, in collaboration with each other. In all ages, there have been people like that talking about it. But somehow, their voices get suppressed. And the systems which dominate and which rule the humankind are being governed by people or by thinking or by approaches which are more exploitative. Right? So somewhere or the other, we have assumed that exploitation is a way of life.
I don't want it to be long, but what I'm...
Please put on the mic.
Sorry.
No, ठीक है.
As we understood here, there is a harmony in nature.
Yeah.
In the initial phase itself, we were totally in tune with nature.
No, never. Humans have never been in tune with nature, ever on this planet yet, as a collective. That's the misinformation we are carrying.
Agree.
From the beginning times itself, we started cutting jungles. We never tried to learn to live in jungles, except for small groups. Overall, humankind has tried to dominate jungles. And with the industrial age, we started dominating the mineral world. And that is why we have arrived here. Living in harmony will only come through learning.
Then the first question remains, then this free will, it has always that way, because human has not been in tune with nature. The free will has always gone against the basic principles.
Not against anything. The basic principle is there is choice. We are standing at a fork.
The basic principle is coexistence.
That is through learning.
Basic through learning, but it's a basic, that is what is desirable.
Desirable for a learned person. This is the choice. No, this we have to recognize. At every generation is standing at a fork. Whether we want to go towards coexisting or we want to go exploiting each other. Every generation has been making a choice. From individual to family to collective, we are making this choice. Sometimes there are more individuals, some small groups, we want to take the other path. But predominantly, the humankind has been making the choice of going the exploitation way.
Can I?
Yes, please.
Actually, I think maybe the confusion comes because think about this perfect order in nature, but actually at the individual species level, it's kind of war, actually. So it depends on how we perceive it. For the actual, for each individual species, they're actually at war for resources. But because they don't have so many capacities, they can't actually overstretch themselves in the way that humans can. Actually, I remember once, just because I was having a conversation with someone once, and they were saying, but why aren't we perfect like nature? And I was thinking, actually, if dogs had machine guns, they'd use them. And I think that was something very clear suddenly to me. It's just like, the animals, they do fight with each other. They actually they do try and expand themselves in that sense, but they only have a limited capacity to do so. So they're actually restricted by more biological limits, basically.
I think we'll go back to this discussion when we discuss this fully, right? After we learn what these 4 orders are and how they are in harmony, because till the time we see how they are in harmony, we're not able to conclude things properly. Okay? Go back to our space matter. Okay, so we've talked about this permeated in form of soaked, immersed, and surrounded. And yeah, just go to the next slide, which part now that you showed, I should explain that. Yeah. Because we talked about perfection, the 3 perfections. So this activity is in 3 dimensions. Okay. So this activity is, one activity is of, because any unit, so first of all, we need to understand unit. If you look at any unit, it is made up of multiple components. That is the first thing we must acknowledge. Take any unit. Each one or each unit has many within it. प्रत्येक एक में अनेक समाये. Whether you take a human being, there are many components. You take a tree, many components. This is at the gross level. Go to the subtle level, atoms, they have many particles. Take electron, proton, neutron, they are made up of something else. Anything you look at has many components. So when we say unit, it's actually a name we are giving to an organization or an order. So every one thing is actually an association of many things, which is orderly in its way. Because there is, within these components, there is coordinated motion, coordinated exchanges. Right? So every unit is a structure of many components. So some activity is for maintaining the structure. Right? So one part of activity goes in the maintaining of the structure of the unit. Any unit, whichever level of organization you're looking at. Like even our body needs to maintain itself, for which it needs food, air, water, good environment, right? These are all needed for maintaining the structure. So it takes what it needs from these and maintains it. The interesting thing about our body is it has the ability to repair it itself also. Right? That's the function of a biological unit. So every level, every unit is an organization of many components, and these are in a form of a defined structure, but the structure is never static. There is always coordinated motion in them. Even in our body, so many things are moving. So there is motion. Even in an atom, the nuclear particles are spinning, the orbital particles are spinning as well as doing the revolutions around the nucleus, form of motion and effort. Every unit has this tendency to find a higher state of stability. When I say higher state, it means more stability. So there is effort for that. So which signifies progress or growth, whichever word you prefer, or development. So there is effort for development, there is motion, and there is activity for maintenance of the structure in every unit at any level of organization in nature. So when I was talking about perfections, 3 perfections, this structural perfection happens in the conscious atom. When it from physical atom to conscious atom, the transition takes place, that we are calling development, and that happens, and there becomes the structural perfection. This effort is basically for arriving at the maximum stability level, right? A maximum stability level is where all the functions are taking place in harmony. So it's a fully dynamic unit which is functioning in full harmony within itself. That moment it is fully stable. That state we are calling rest or fully stable. And now this unit, which is structurally perfect and fully functional in harmony within itself, is able to have a harmonious, completely harmonious impact outside, which is we are calling conduct perfection. So these are the 3 perfections. So this happens in nature, where physical atom becomes the conscious atom, jivan. Then jivan's journey, the next destination is here, where it's through learning and education, it becomes fully aware, fully functional with its all 10 activities, full potential working. And with those potential, it is able to have an impact in the community and nature of harmony. So this is the existential motivation at every level, if you see. So before this happens, all your physical chemical world lies below this. So your mineral order and a plant order is physical chemical world, right? And then the animal order, the conscious entity as well as the biological entity, they combine. And in humans, that combination is able to achieve this functional perfection through knowledge, through education, and then it can live. In living is where you get conduct perfection. So for you and I, that has already happened. These 2 have to take place. Structural, we are already conscious, so we are structurally complete atoms. We are conscious, right? So you are a jivan. So jivan is a conscious atom, which is structurally perfect. So our journey is from here. Now we have to work for this. This comes through education, from learning. Education of what? Coexistence. Okay.
Is this journey like you said कि हम लोग already like you said we the Jivan atom has already reached structural perfection, and we need to work on the next two, but this is not like a chronological thing, no? Like you said that Earth revolve constantly in say functional perfection.
No, no, no.
Oh.
They are functioning. They are contributing. See, our role is to achieve this and that. But we can't do this without the help of others. So we won't come into existence without the harmony in the mineral order, plant order, and the animal order. Our human bodies cannot emerge without that. And on a planet which is like in a certain kind of balance of three orders, that is where the human order emerges. Right? But now that we have emerged, we have to complete our role. That will fulfill everything. When humans become realized, then the effort of every mineral, every plant, every animal has culminated into this. Otherwise, it's worthless if we humans don't do our role. But it won't impact them. It will impact us. This whole sense of like we didn't fulfill our responsibility, so the pain of it affects us, not anything else. So, no, follow. First finish with what your query is, then we'll go on to the other.
Then I'm just coming back to my first question that if that's the case, how do atoms, like say there is a sentient matter, sentient atom, insentient atom, how does it decide to not becoming a sentient?
Yeah, good question. So, in nature, the rule is that emergence of that which is needed. That is the principle which works. So, for example, you take a small bucket of water and it has some organic matter and you let it rot for some time. Then you'll see some sorts of living organisms emerging from it. Because the conditions are for those, that is what will emerge from it. Okay? So, everywhere, whatever the conditions are, that thing emerges. And in how much quantity? It won't be that this rotting bucket will have billions of organisms. Right? Will have certain number, which is supported by that bucket. So this is planet is a self-regulating mechanism. So say in tropical areas, certain kind of life forms will emerge. In Arctic area, certain other kind will emerge. At the bottom of the sea, something else will emerge. At the surface of sea, something else will emerge. So whatever the conditions are, they will emerge. Interestingly, whatever is emerging is complementary to each other. So it's perfection in totality. It is not perfection in a single thing. Others have completed their role. Whatever they have to contribute for this perfection of the planet, the three orders have done it, and they're doing it. It is continuous. We are the ones who have not yet completed our role. To complete this beauty and to first see this whole system, then participate in this system, and then experience the joy of the whole beauty. That's our journey.
Can I have just one more follow-up? So, if in nature only those things emerge, that which is needed, why did willful action emerge if we were if like I think
I got you.
because it is now leading to all this mess. Like we are not able to realize this. Then why did we emerge? If that.
So, see, conscious entities being in harmony mechanically already happens with the animal world. There is a thing called freedom, the progression of freedom in entities. When we do the 4 orders, you'll see how the ability of freedom increases with each order. Okay? In humans, the freedom comes to full potential. And knowledge is a decision whether to get knowledge or not. Knowledge can only be gained if you have full freedom. It's a free choice whether you want knowledge or not. That is the design of the existence. That you have to choose between whether you want to have knowledge or not have knowledge. The nature has given us a mechanism built in. If you pursue knowledge, and the achievements on that path will give you joy. If you don't pursue knowledge, your journey will be full of pain. But again, we have the choice whether to evaluate this or not. So everything, as Neo says in Matrix, is all about choice. Yes.
So I'm just, whatever I've understood, I'm just trying to summarize it. So Jivan has, structurally we have reached the structural perfection, right? Now we need to work on the efforts like the functional perfection, which is to understand and gain knowledge.
Yes.
And then the destination is to coexist in harmony.
Yes.
That's the,
Yes.
at
And
least a little bit of it.
on that note, let's go have some tea.